Yeah, so I mean, we filmed a video a few weeks ago, and we showed that example in New York and New Jersey. There were really no masks to buy, and still right now it's very, very hard to buy masks. Some stores might have masks, but they'll quickly sell out within like a day or two. So first is a lot of people in America are starting to buy masks, and also particularly at the beginning, I had a lot of Chinese friends. They were buying masks and shipping to China because they wanted to give their friends and family. So we went to New Jersey that day. I know New York. I knew New York would not have masks, so we went to New Jersey thinking that New Jersey might have some masks. And we went to a bunch of stores and drove a lot, and there were no masks. So yes, most of the masks in the U.S. are from China. Like we saw some of the labels on the masks are from China, but it's not just masks that's being affected. Actually, a lot of goods are being affected. So I was reading online today that people aren't able to get dresses, like prom or wedding dresses, are getting sold out. So that's a huge problem. Like people can't get married because there's no wedding dresses. I mean, and then if you look at, let's say, like cars, a lot of car factories are complaining that they can't get like just one part, and so if you don't have one part, you can't build a car missing one part. So we are now like a huge globalized world, and when China's affected, the whole world is affected. Yeah, I think so. The first thing that I noticed was that, again, I had a lot of Chinese friends. Like right away, they really wanted to find how they could help. I mean, they're in America. China's so far. So they found one way to help was to ship masks to China. And so I was really almost like inspired by that. I don't know if Americans would do the same thing. The other thing that I found really interesting was the lack of chaos in China. So in the U.S., let's say when we have like a disaster, let's take like a hurricane, for example. So Hurricane Katrina, or there was a hurricane recently in Puerto Rico. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of issues. You'll notice sometimes in the news that people will put like a sign in front of their home that says, "You loot, we shoot." The meaning be, if you steal our stuff, we'll shoot you. Because people are afraid. They're at that time. A lot of organizations are just too slow to bring help. So people are really afraid, and they're stealing, and there's a lot of chaos. But I was actually surprised in China that there wasn't that. I think maybe for Chinese people they might not be surprised, but for me I was really, really surprised. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what would really happen when the outbreak hits the U.S. I would be quite afraid. I think when I noticed in China there's a lot of organization that's sort of lacking here. For example, in the U.S. there's so many different departments. First we have the city government, the state government, the federal government, and they all have to talk to each other. There's not like a streamlined organizational hierarchy. So I think that's one problem. Another problem is there might not be enough people or resources to really like fight this issue. Let me answer the question about the Wall Street Journal. When I saw the title, I was really shocked. I was like, wow, like do they not realize what that means? And it wasn't, like if it was like a small newspaper, it would be one thing, but it's a Wall Street Journal is a very famous paper. I was very surprised, and I was angry that they had this kind of title. So I wanted to educate, particularly Americans, that like you can't talk like this, and then this is wrong. So I filmed a video in English. I really wanted Americans and the rest of the world to see that like this sort of racism is wrong. I don't want to generalize, but I'll say like there's some media in the U.S. that they're sensationalism. There's actually a term called yellow journalism. There's a long history of this, and they'll create news content for views. And why are they doing that? Because their goal is profitability. They don't really care too much about if the content is true, or if let's say the title is a title that is like ethical. And so I think that's a big problem. I mean, I think if particularly if you're a reputable news source, you have a responsibility. You have all that power. You have a responsibility to tell the truth and do it in ways that are respectful. Given a certain situation. Now, I wanna just share a highlight though, is that let's say people in America, I think are very different. When we were on the street, for example, we were doing a video, and we wanted to find people to say like "Wuhan Jiao," And that was so easy, because normally when we actually, because I'm in video work, I'll interview people on the street. It's very hard to get people to interview. But everyone that we asked to just say Wuhan Jaya was so willing to express support. So there's a lot of Americans that really care about this situation and really want to show their support. For example, I've also had a lot of comments on YouTube saying like, oh, I'm praying for China, or I care about China. There's a lot of this. So while there are mistakes made in media in the U.S., there's also a lot of Americans that are just are good people. Something that I find very interesting in China is not only are they Chinese people are very interested in showing their own culture, they're also very curious about other cultures. A lot of Chinese are very curious about how America is, and I don't see this with Americans. A lot of Americans are not very curious about other cultures. They're very inward looking. They're not looking out at the rest of the world, and this is a big problem. I mean, I think Americans can learn a lot from China. And so we did a video in English, talking about sort of not being racist and about the virus. But I think we need more sort of English content geared towards Americans. It might not necessarily be in the form of video, but it's just it might be in the form of more like exchanges. We need more Americans going to China, because I think you really have to go to a place to really understand it. Would love more Americans to see China so that so that we could get WeChat Pay and high-speed rails. Like there's one of my favorite Chinese words is yaochou. Like I love this word, and Americans don't have the yaochou for WeChat Pay or high-speed rails. But if, let's say, they could see that China has it, maybe we could get it, right?